This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's Check the Report episode is brought to you by The Athletic, premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. Check the Report listeners can get 20% off the first year of an annual subscription by visiting theathletic.com/DSP. Welcome to the latest edition of the Check the Report podcast. I am your host, Vito, and we are going to look at now the Detroit Mercy Oakland contest taking place at 4 p.m. at Calihan Hall. And since joining the Horizon League in 2013, by the way, guys, Oakland has had the upper hand against the Titans. 6-2 overall versus Detroit Mercy, and OU has won its last two games inside of Calihan against Detroit Mercy as well. OU 12-8 overall, 4-3 in Horizon League play, currently riding a 3-game winning streak, and is 18-3 in its last 21 Horizon League road games as well. That is something that obviously bodes very well for OU going into this one against Detroit Mercy, a team that is amidst just tough times, some turbulent times, and a lot of struggles seen from Detroit Mercy in the second year of Bacari Alexander being the head man at Detroit Mercy, as the team currently stands at 6-14 overall, 2-5 in Horizon League play, dropping its last contest Tuesday night to IUPUI on the road, returning home and not going to have Jaleel Hogan once again. And you have to play a team that scores a ton of points in Oakland University. 81.2. Detroit Mercy actually outscores OU and actually leads the conference in points per game at 81.5 per game. Now, defensively, that is the big difference, the big drop-off. It is really what separates OU from Detroit Mercy. Detroit Mercy almost allows 90 points per game at 87.1 a game currently. So, obviously, Detroit Mercy is not getting it done on the defensive side of the ball and has to improve things if it wants to see an uptick in production and in wins the rest of the way this season, too, starting against the very high-functioning offensive attack of Oakland University, led by fifth-year senior and a transfer from Illinois in guard Kendrick Nunn, a guy that has multiple 30-point games to his name already this season and scored 32 in OU's last time out on Monday night against UIC. I had the chance to chat with Detroit Mercy head coach Bacari Alexander about Nunn, about the game plan going into the contest to stop him, or at least to limit his production. And we also talked about the fact that Jaleel Hogan has missed the last 3 Detroit Mercy games, and I asked him about whether or not he'll see the floor again this season. And we also talked about the 20-year reunion taking place for Detroit Mercy's 1997-1998 NCAA tournament team that upset St. John's in the first round, Bacari Alexander being a part of that team, along with assistant coach Jermaine Jackson. And without further ado, let's get to that chat I had with Bacari Alexander earlier this week. Glad to be back here at historic Calihan Hall. I am Vito from the Detroit Sports Podcast Network with Detroit Mercy men's basketball head coach Bacari Alexander. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Vito. It's good to be with you again.
How has preparation gone for Saturday against Oakland so far?
Well, you know, preparation is always about getting the team better at Detroit Mercy first. And so one of the things we're concentrating on right now is improving our execution in an effort to get turnovers down, areas like screening, sprinting the floor, cutting hard, being more crisp and precise in what we're trying to do. And as it relates to Oakland, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is look at opportunities that we'll be able to get as a result of some of their defensive tendencies in that same framework. Now, the last part of things is here's a team that has, 3 players that scoring near 20 points a game. Obviously, it's going to be a tremendous challenge number 2 in the league scoring offense. It's going to be one of those games where there's going to be a challenge inside, with their big guy, and then there's going to be a challenge on the perimeter, with a couple of their players there. So it's going to be really, really important for us to try to key in on ways that we can attack in an effort to maybe get those players out the game.
Now, what does this Metro Series with in-state rival Oakland University mean to you exactly, Coach?
Well, it means a ton. I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest brewing rivalries in our college basketball landscape here in Michigan. We know about Michigan and Michigan State. We know about Central Michigan versus Western. People are learning about the Metro Series, Oakland and Detroit. It's one of those contests where you got two really good programs that have a tremendous amount of respect for one another. And it's one of those contest too that has a bit of local flavor to it. So these are young people that you've grown to know throughout the course of their high school careers, and so I couldn't be more thrilled. I know where I'll be at 4:00 on Saturday at Calihan Hall, but all our fans should definitely pile in there because this is going to be a great game.
Coach, I'll be there too. I'll say that much right now. Looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to seeing Kendrick Nunn, by the way, play as well. From OU, the fifth-year senior guard, multiple 30-point games already from Kendrick this season, including 32 Monday night against UIC. Now, what's the game plan to stop him, or at least to limit his production going into Saturday's contest?
It's interesting that you should bring that up, and hats off to Kendrick. Had a chance to watch that young man develop at the University of Illinois when I was in the Big Ten. And I'm sure the same conversation, not to divert from the question, is being said in their offices about Corey Allen. Again, another kid, multiple 30-point games, have had, instances where he has really, really shown dominance, over recent contests. I think he just placed, 32 or 34 points the other day last week against maybe Youngstown State. But with Nunn, I think it's going to be a very interesting development because for guys that play the minutes that he plays and the assignment that he's going to draw and Corey's going to draw, I'd imagine they'll probably end up guarding each other at some point in time in the game. Who can tire the other one out first? Who can limit the other one's touches? When you have great players like Kendrick Nunn, I don't know if it's a matter of stopping them versus making them work and limiting the touches that they get within the course of their offense.
So besides for curtailing his production, curtailing the touches that he gets, because you only can do so much, and trying to stop a guy like Kendrick Nunn once again, what else do you guys have to do to get the victory against the Golden Grizzlies?
Well, I think in any game you have to win the turnover battle. You got to win the battle on the glass. And then what's particularly important is that you got to make sure that you're able to get to the free throw line. One of the areas that's been a strength for us all season long is being able to get to the charity stripe and get into the bonus because you're doing two things there. Maybe you're getting some of their better players off the court due to foul trouble, but more importantly, you're getting a chance to score the basketball at the same time. I think it's going to be critically important that we make sure that our shot selection is good enough so that it doesn't fuel the transition break of Oakland. They do get out and score in bunches, so do we. But I think more important than anything, our ability to lock in defensively and understand who are the guys that are getting the lion's share of shots, whether that's Jalen Hayes in the post, whether that's Kendrick Nunn, who we just spoke about, whether that's Martez Walker, that's going to be key. But at the same time, you can't ignore guys, like Braylon Neely and Big Brock and those guys, having, double-digit performances because, the big fella got to the offensive glass or you forgot to rotate out on a open shot, by the point guards. And so it's going to be a game where focus is going to be critical. Every possession is going to matter, and we have to make sure that we value those possessions.
Jaleel Hogan hasn't played since playing against Northern Kentucky, a game I was at. He's missed the last 3 games, with that being said. What can you tell me about the reason for his absence?
Well, in our game notes, and I don't know if you had an opportunity to see that, Jaleel Hogan and Tariq Jones is not available due to academic reasons at this point in time. We're hopeful that, we're able to rectify the situation. It's not projecting that that's going to take place prior to the Oakland contest, but it's a work in progress, so right now they've been, deemed, academically unavailable, but it's going to be a situation for us where we've been having to adjust all year long. Cam Chapman went down after Wright State due to a concussion. concussion. Now Jaleel Hogan and Tariq Jones, and then Isaiah Jones, who had hurt his leg in practice. And so it's been next man up, next man up, next man up. But in Jaleel's case, that's the reason why he hasn't been available to us.
And specifically in his case, there is a chance then that he does play again this season, Coach?
You know what? We're not sure right now due to FERPA. We're not able to get into grave detail on his academic situation due to privacy laws. But, we're at the end of every semester, we're always working, diligently to see if there are some solutions, that are student-athlete driven, mind you, to try to rectify, any, academic coursework that needs to be satisfied to put themselves back in position to be on the court.
So how have you made up for the absence of Jaleel then? And what's the plan moving forward as a team to make up for his absence?
Well, I think for us, the bottom line is, you have to get production by committee. Specifically, since we're talking Jaleel, you look at guys like Gerald Blackshear, you look at guys like Jack Ballantyne, you look at guys like Malik Eichler, who played 10 minutes the other day against IUPUI, but it doesn't stop there for us. Roshan Prince is a versatile player, able to play different positions, Cam Chapman as well. And so we've used a combination of small ball, and a combination of committee ball, to try to suffice the void that a great player like Jaleel Hogan, would leave. But just as important as that, we try to make sure that we get paint touches in a different way, via the cut to the basket, via ball screen offense, via dives on, fast break, rim running, opportunities. And then the last area is offensive rebounds. So you may not get the traditional back to the basket look, but you get those points in the paint in different ways.
Only 6 overall wins so far this season, including 2 wins in conference play up to this point. Now, do you think that this has been a disappointing start to the season with all that being said, Coach, for you guys at Detroit Mercy?
Well, when you look at the Horizon League overall, there's a lot of parity out there. We actually have won 2 out of the last 3, depending on how you frame it. And one of the things that we're optimistic about in those successes here recently is the growth of our club. When you look at the body of work that's been done league-wide. We played a game against IUPUI the other day. If we were able to win it, even though we cut into the lead, 5, with maybe 4 minutes remaining and lost, it could have put us in 5th place, as crazy as that sounds. Now we find ourselves maybe 2 games out of 4th with 11 games to go, 3 wins out of, maybe a different standing. There's so much in terms of what your goals are in front of you, whether that be conference regular season championship or conference tournament championship. And so what we try to do is we look at the conference season and say, okay, at 2-5, are we out of the race with regards to getting into the upper echelon, of where either the preseason pick was or putting ourselves in position, to be right there, in the conversation in the final week of the regular season. So disappointing would be premature to go there because there's still so much ball left to be played in a very wide open Horizon League. And so outside of the work of Wright State, Northern Kentucky, and some would argue Oakland, who's sitting here, close to tied with IUPUI and UIC, it's very difficult for me as a coach to say, we're out of the race, but again, 2 out of the last 3 is encouraging, and I think this Metro Series rivalry game is one that if we're able to protect home and get it, it just only boosts the confidence not only of our club, but it produces the evidence that we can make some noise down the stretch moving forward.
And now, despite it maybe being premature to say that it's been a disappointing season so far for you guys, still a rough start, let's say, to the season. At least I'll describe it as that. And now when it comes to that, and your players are experiencing these losses early on in the season, how do you keep them motivated? And does it make it tougher on you and your coaching staff to keep these guys moving forward and have them stay focused on, winning games, consistently moving forward?
Yeah, I think the main thing, Vito, that you want to look at with regards to that is the effort level of your group. Nobody would argue that you got to pack a lunch when you play the Titans. We have spurtability. We have the chance, the ability to score in bunches. I think what's really particularly compelling about this group is that the resilient nature to persevere throughout the course of a 40-minute contest has absolutely been on display. Outside of maybe 5 to 6 contests on a year, we've dropped the rest of those games by 3 possessions or less. And so for us, as we grow our program, as we continue to try to navigate through injuries and these type of things, it's going to be very, very important as a coaching staff, top down, that we frame the narrative along the lines of just getting better each day. And we've done that. I look at guys like, Cole Long. I look at guys like Malik Eichler coming in the game, knocking down a sky hook. These are all bits of evidence. Deshaundre Black's been playing well off the bench here recently. These are all bits of evidence of a team that's still developing and finding its legs, But at the same time, I think it's very, very important to note that as we continue to look forward, in terms of how we frame the mindsets of our group to keep them motivated in the midst of, falling short in wins, are we getting better each contest? We started the conference slate out at Green Bay and Milwaukee. Both games were tied with 7 minutes remaining. Then we play Wright State. Now you're down 1, 66-65 with 5:46 remaining. Then you fast forward to Northern Kentucky. Game's tied, 13 seconds left. Then you're down 1 against Youngstown State, 3.9 seconds left, only to win at the buzzer. Then you use free throw shooting to close out the game against Youngstown State. Then you have a lethargic start on the road at IUPUI, storm back within 5 with 4:22 remaining. These are all things that produce evidence that the coaching staff, our players still believe in what they're pursuing, and what we're pursuing is to try to play our best basketball leading into Motor City Madness.
And speaking of playing a high-level brand of basketball, let's look at the team that you were part of in the 97-98 campaign that went to the NCAA tournament, being recognized at halftime of Saturday's contest against OU. What will it mean to you, Coach, to have members of that team back at Calihan watching you and your squad take on OU?
One of the things that's really, really exciting about Saturday's contest is not only the Metro Series and opportunity to play against a great Oakland club, but tradition never graduates, does it, Vito? It's one of those things where when you're able to recognize Perry Watson and his first NCAA team of the 1998 season, I can't think more about the unexpected success that team was able to produce at that time. Not sure if we were the preseason pick that year. It might have been another team in our league at the time. But the camaraderie, the memories, upsets, the protecting of home court win streak, which we had the longest in the country at the time, were all things that, this team not only is probably a little underappreciated for, but it's easy to forget. Here we are 20 years later being able to bring that team back, with guys, like Derek Hayes, Chevrolet Player of the Game against St. John's, Perry Robinson, E.J. Harrelson, obviously Rashad Phillips, all-time leading scorer. More importantly, Perry Watson, his assistants, Mike Jack, Mickey Barrett, David Greer. All of these guys represent all that what we're about here in our 112 history of basketball at Detroit Mercy. And it's going to be just a game filled with competition, great memories. But for me personally, I think it's just such an honor to honor a guy like Perry Watson, who put us in position to pursue degrees and championships all at the same time.
Now, you brought up Rashad. Now, he's a guy that I've interviewed in the past. I think I brought that up to you. And the Titans' all-time leading scorer. He lives in Florida now, from my knowledge. Is he coming back for sure then, too?
Yeah, he plans to be in attendance right now. We're anticipating, having at least in upwards of 95%, if not 98% of the roster there. I think Matt Bauman, who played on that team out of Livonia, Franklin, is unable to attend. He lives in the state of Maine these days. And so we got a number of players coming in from Colorado, Bacari Alexander, Georgia, Perry Robinson. You mentioned Rashad Phillips, who resides down in Florida these days. Coach Mike Jackson, who lives in Providence, Rhode Island. So we got guys from all over the country that is spread out now, but we all remain in contact with one another, and we'll have a nice private dinner reception Friday night. We'll have a great, a halftime recognition for those guys. I'll be in the locker room, mind you, but it's going to be, just a great, great start to a number of accomplishments, because next year, we're, up against the 20th anniversary of the 1999 group.
So that 1997-1998 NCAA tournament squad played and upset St. John's in the first round. Now, how amazing was that for you and your teammates when you pulled off the upset?
It was particularly important not only for our team, but for the league at the time. The Midwestern Collegiate Conference, as we're formerly known, sent 3 teams to the NCAA tournament. And for us, UIC and Butler, to not only make it to the big dance, I thought it was equally, as important for one of us to represent the league in an effort to advance to the next round. For us, it was a game of New York versus Detroit, Zendon Hamilton, Felipe Lopez, Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, were guys that were on the court. But the thing that we enjoyed most is that it gave us an opportunity to really represent the blue-collar nature of our city, which is the same framework we're trying to rebuild the program in now. And so it's just a matter of time before we're able to, really shift our identity more towards that direction and identify the type of student athletes that are gritty, not necessarily pretty, when they play the game. But it meant the world to us. It meant the world to the city to have the word Detroit across your chest. And then back then, quite honestly, a great majority of the roster was from the area. So times have changed, over the years, but, I'm looking forward to giving those guys big bear hugs, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of war stories and a little bit of embellishing going on because the older we get, the greater we were, right, Vito?
And you know what? So a lot of embracing, like I said, warm hugs. And do you have some of the players plan to speak to your team before the game as well?
It hadn't been determined yet, but again, anytime that former champions want to interface with our team, they're always welcome to do so. We had the great pleasure of hearing last year when Terry Durod was retired. He addressed the team after shoot-around, as well as Dick Vitale and some of the others. So, again, we would love for our 1997-98 season champions to interface with the team as well. You can never get enough of alternative viewpoints from those that our student-athletes don't get to see every day. So I'm looking forward to those guys being around. They're going to be welcome to be in the locker room. We're one big family here at Detroit, and we're just trying to make sure we build this program in a very inclusive way, regardless of the era, so everybody has a sense of belonging.
Coach, I'll leave you with this. What's the message you would like to deliver to the student body at Detroit Mercy before the contest on Saturday? And I'll let you take the mic, actually, for this, too.
To all our fans out there that's in the dorms, commuting, in the diners, in the local area, you're downtown, you're working for Quicken Loans or one of those new companies down there, you're new to the area, you don't have a college affiliation. We are Detroit's college team. Calihan Hall is a great venue. We're celebrating 65 years, a great tradition. At 4 o'clock at Calihan Hall, come down and see the Titans take on the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. It's called the Metro Series, folks. It's one of the biggest rivalries out there. We've had it now for a number of different years. In my tenure, we've won one game. We've lost one game. We're 500. It is brewing. It is great. You're going to see a great deal of talent. Tickets are very, very affordable and available. Justin Harrison and his team is available for you to make those purchases at 313-993-1700. Again, it's our turn. It's our city, and that battle is going to be on display at Calihan Hall, 4 o'clock. Hope to see you there.
Coach, looking forward to it. Best of luck to you and the squad, and thanks for doing this interview with me, too. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Vito, and go Titans.
That was second-year Detroit Mercy men's basketball head coach Bacari Alexander. And now here is Greg Kampe in his 34th year on the job at Oakland University, talking with my colleague and my buddy, John Charles Macaroon.
Ahead of a big Horizon League matchup this afternoon, Greg Kampe joins us, head coach, Oakland University. Thank you so much for taking the time. How are you today?
I'm doing good, John. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Excited for the Metro Series matchup. But before we talk about the matchup, I'm definitely curious to get your response and sense of how did you feel when you heard the news that Kay Felder signed with the Pistons on a two-way deal?
Oh, it was great. I said this, and I truly believe it, that the greatest thing, the greatest dream to come true for any basketball player is to play in the NBA. But even on top of that, if you can play for your hometown team, the team that you grew up, wanting to play for and dreaming to play for, I just think that's the greatest thing that could happen. And the day he puts that uniform on and gets on the floor, we'll all be extremely, extremely proud and happy for him because that's the biggest dream you can have.
Now, you've seen K around the arena since the time he's come and been released from Chicago. What has he meant to your program in the time that he's graduated from Oakland?
Well, he's been a beacon for our program. He put us into new light when you can leave early. Not that I want guys leaving early, but when you can leave early and, get to the NBA from Oakland, that shows other recruits that, we might be the place to come to. And that our system and that we had prepared him well enough that he put up enough numbers and did all the things he needed to do to get recognized. So, just that in itself has been really a benefit to us.
Now, ahead of the matchup versus Detroit, you obviously now are playing in the Horizon League. What are your expectations now going into this matchup versus your rival?
We're in a situation where we messed up early in the league. We had 3 straight games that we lost in last possession games. They put us in a position that, we have to win out if we want to win a championship. There's no way I believe that you can have 4 losses this year to win it. I think that it's definitely 3 will be, even 3 may be tough with the way Wright State's playing. So we have to take it one game at a time, one possession at a time. And I know that's coach speak and all that, but it's really particularly in our case true right now. We just got to go one possession at a time because we can't sit there and think, oh, if this or that. We put ourselves in this situation and now we just got to play well.
Now, one of the key contributors on your offense, Kendrick Nunn, obviously second leading scorer in the entire NCAA. When you go and watch him, you can get a sense that, even if he may start slowly in a game, he can heat up really quick. What has he meant to your program this season?
Well, we've had a lot of players over the years that have been high scorers. And, we've had the nation's leading scorer. We've had guys that have finished in the top 3. So it's not unusual for us to have this. I will say what is unusual is the way he does it. He's so efficient, probably more efficient than any of the other players that I've ever coached. He can have 0 with 12 minutes to go in a half and end the half with 24. I mean, it's just amazing how quickly he can score and how efficient. He doesn't need a lot of shots to get a lot of points.
For those that are maybe new now to the Horizon League, peeking into it, the Metro Series, what would you assess and how would you describe the scouting report for your squad?
It's been an interesting game because we're the number 1 and 2 teams in the league in scoring. So, I think a lot of people, it'd be interesting to see what the over-under is on it because I think a lot of people will think that this is going to be a 90 to 95 game, something like that. And if it is, I think that's trouble for us. I think that, for us to win this game, we've got to guard them. And they have 3 really outstanding scorers, and we have got to make sure that Allen and Chapman and McFarley and don't get wide open looks. And you add Jackson to that too. I mean, he's had over 20 his last 3 games. So I guess you got 4 guys out there that can really score the ball, and you've got to guard them. You can't give them open shots. And then on the other end, we've got to make sure that we play from the rim out on offense. They're a team that gives up a lot of threes, and we don't want to get caught up in that because if you're not making them, you've got to test the rim first. And with Jalen Hayes and our ability to drive to the rim and get to the free throw line, I think that's really important that we don't get lost in that. I got an open jump shot, I'm taking it.
Going into this matchup, outside of Kendrick Nunn, who else can you look to contribute to help out the cause?
Well, we've got the top 3 scorers in the league, so you can't win with one guy getting all the points. You've got to have other people. And Jalen Hayes has had, we've scored over 30 points, had a player score over 30 points in more than half our games. And it's been 3 different guys, I think Kendrick's done it 6 or 7 times. Jalen's done it a couple times, and Martez has done it a couple times. So, any one of those 3 guys can go get your points. And then you look at Nick Daniels. He's been over 20 before, and he had 16 in a game last week. And he's a guy that when he's making threes, that really makes us better. So, we want to get the ball into Jalen first and get it to the rim and get to the free throw line. And if we can't do those things, then we'll make shots. Kendrick's going to get 10 or 12 threes up. He does every night. It's just who we are.
And you've talked several times post-game regarding making key important plays, making championship plays, doing the little things right with the week of practice and things like that. Do you feel like going forward this season that you have to shore that up, making the better plays, making smarter plays in order for your team to contend and maybe make a run in the Horizon League tournament?
Absolutely. And, we lost 3 one-possession games, and then we came back Saturday at UIC, and the game was tied with 3 minutes to go in the game, and we made the plays in this game. We made shots and did all the things that we needed to do to win the game. So, we have to continue to do that. We have to get better at the little things, all the things that don't take talent. We have to get better at those things. And if we do, we've got a team that could do something special.
Yeah, one of the areas that I know you're always looking for and you're definitely tough on is the point guard position. Now, you have Nick Daniels sometimes playing out of position. I know you're trying to bring along Braylon Neely. At this point in time in the season, what's your assessment of the point guard play?
I don't think it's been good enough. I think that Braylon is getting better than he was earlier in the year. I think his assist-to-turnover ratio, I get upset with our point guard play, but he leads the league in assist-to-turnover ratio. He leads the league in assists, so he's doing a lot good. I just want more. I want to be better. I don't want the little mistakes, the mistakes that reach out and beat you in games. And he's just got to get to that point. I think he will. I mean, he's really improving, and he's doing a lot of things great. I mean, to lead the league in assists and assist-to-turnover ratio, it means he has to be doing something. And then Nick, Nick is really a two-guard that's playing a lot of minutes at the point. He's just getting better every time he's out there. He gets better at it.
Checking in on the roster, a couple key injuries also have prevented the team from maybe reaching the potential that you thought. Any updates you can provide regarding Brad Brechting, James Beck?
Well, Cumberland's done. He will not play. His year is over. Beck practiced 2 days ago, felt pain, so he took yesterday off, and then he did go today. And then if he feels okay tomorrow, I may play him a few minutes. But I think he's close to getting back. Brechting was approved by the doctor to start on-court basketball activities. It's going to be at least a 2-week period of bringing him back. I mean, it's been 13 weeks, so you can't just go out there on a broken foot with a pin in it and start running and jumping. So we started today on a bike. He's doing, where he actually put weight on the pedals and did some stuff. And it's going to be probably a 2-week period, and then we're going to make a decision on, do you want to play 12 to 15 games in your junior year, or do you want to just redshirt the year and start over next year? So that'll be his decision, not mine.
Greg Kampe, Oakland basketball head coach, kind enough to give us a few minutes here on the Detroit Sports Podcast. I want to leave you with this. I want to get a sense, what's it like for you as a coach when you're in a heated rivalry game on the road? You know that, your supporters are going to be out there at Calihan Hall. Detroit's looking to make a name off of playing your team. In the moment, in those 40 minutes, what's it like to be coaching in a heated rivalry game? Set the scene for me.
Well, it's very intense, very intense. You can't make mistakes. You have to have your A game, because they will, and that, this is a game that means more to the fans than any game you'll play. So it's very, very important. The media-wise, they'll gain more attention than any regular season game. We've got fans busting to the game, and so they have high expectations. They expect us to win. We're the team with the better record, so we'll see what happens.
Thank you so much for your time. I know you're taking time to prepare for this key matchup. Thank you for talking to the Detroit Sports Podcast. I always enjoy the conversation.
All right, man. Thank you, and anytime.
And that is all she wrote for this special edition of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, a preview of the Metro Series tilt taking place at 4 p.m. at Calihan Hall, featuring the Oakland Golden Grizzlies and the Detroit Mercy Titans. Hope you enjoyed the chats with Bacari Alexander and Greg Kampe. And guys, make sure to keep it here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network for all of your coverage of the Metro Series. I am Vito Churko, signing off for the DSP Network. Adios.